Hey, good morning, good evening, everyone. Welcome to my blog, sfsupport247.com. Today we are going to discuss about Dataverse limitations. We will look at the limitations in different categories. First, let us start with the storage. By default, Dataverse provides a storage up to 10 gig for the database and for file 20 gig. If you need more storage, you can work with your admin or with your license provider. They can add more capacity, more storage. You can buy it. It's not costly. It's very cheap. You can buy that storage from Microsoft directly. And file size limits maximum 128 per MB. There is a data type called file in the Dataverse. In that file, you can store a file size maximum 128 MB. If you want larger files, I recommend going to Azure Blob. Use Azure Blob as a link in your database, especially Dataverse table. That's a best practice so for your application performance also. The next category is API call limits. API stands for Application Programming Interfaces. By default, 25,000 API calls per user per day. If you want to have more API calls, means your application is going to have a use case where users are going to make more than 25,000 API calls to the Dataverse. You can buy that information similar to like subscription model, pay as you go kind of a model from Microsoft. Tenant level limits per service accounts. So what happens is when you create a Dataverse database in the Power Platform, it will be created in a tenant. This 25,000 API limit is per tenant. If you have different tenants, the API limit will vary. This shared API limit can impact multiple apps. Assume that if there are multiple apps running on a tenant, and that may impact your 25,000. Let's say you have a student information app and you have a course management app. Each one is calling 20,000 APIs. If you want to have more APIs, you can do that by purchasing pay as you go. Means you can work with your admin or your license renewal person in your company. They can help you to get more limits. On the performance side, fetch XML queries are limited to 50,000 records per request. So if you want to get around a million records, right? It's always better practice is to get in some chunks like 10,000 or 20,000. Dataverse is giving 50,000 limit. This is one of the best practices also. It's not advisable to go and get all the data at one time. Go and get some chunks of data all the time. And concurrency limits, there are concurrency limits also. If your application is highly concurrent, then you can work with your admin to create multiple environments for your application. And table rows, maximum 500 billion rows per table. So this is very well understood. I have very large experience in the database data intense applications. I never saw any database table more than 500 in the transaction system. So this Dataverse is a transaction table. Transaction table means like every day you check transactions like that transaction table. If you go to your bank and if you want to get your bank report 5 years back, they will say that, hey, submit a request, we'll send you, right? Because that will be stored in a different database. Like that, for Dataverse tables also, in Dataverse table, the maximum limit is 500 million. If there is a use case for you to store more records, it's think about the history or archival options for your database table. Custom code, no direct database access, especially SQL create statements are not allowed from any SQL UI such as Azure Data Studio. That's I try to access the Dataverse using Azure Data Studio. I was able to access, but unable to create the tables because of this limitation. Calculated fields category cannot reference other calculated or roll up fields. If you want to refer the calculated fields, you cannot. Roll up fields updated hourly. So if you have a roll up column in the database table, that roll up column will be computed hourly so that you will get that information. Relationships, there is no end to end relationship, means many to many relationship. just use a junction table to create that relationship. This is a common and best practice also. Though I worked in Microsoft SQL or Oracle, I for many to many relationship always I go with a junction table. Security wise, role based security, field level security require custom profiles. This is your administrator can help. On the integration side, virtual tables are limited to CRUD operations, no complex relationship. So there is a concept called virtual table in Dataverse. That means instead of copying data from external databases, let's take if you have a Oracle HR database from the Dataverse, if you want to get that information, your HR first name, last name, or your salary, the person's salary. So there is a concept called virtual table in the Dataverse. You can use this virtual table to link your Dataverse to the Oracle HR table. The data is not copied into the system. That is one beautiful functionality, but there are some limits how complex the relationships are in the integration, especially in the virtual table scenario. If you are running any Power BI big queries, it's not encouraged to run large complex queries, Power BI queries on Dataverse. Auditing, audit logs are retained only per defined period. It's 90 days. If you want to have a audit for more than 90 days, it's copy your audit files frequently, means once in 30 days, to a permanent storage like Azure Blobs or your data warehouse or data lakes. Licensing and cost, high cost for premium features. Now substantially the cost got reduced, but the storage cost is going down anyway. The kind of functionality that Dataverse provides, it's better. All built-in features are available right away. You can pay that kind of a premium to avail that kind of features. Your administration work will be so less if you are using a Dataverse. As a DBA kind of operations are very limited in the Dataverse, but they are very efficient. Most of the DBA work will be handled by Microsoft. That's it. Just to wrap it up, there are some limitations for the Dataverse. These are the different categories. These are the limitations, and workaround or implications are outlined in my blog. I can keep a link in this video. You can go and check it out. Thank you.